You will be well aware that the number of people sleeping rough on the streets of Leicester has risen. You can only imagine what it's actually like to live in this way. But that wasn't enough for one local businessman who wanted to know firsthand the reality of sleeping on the streets. He's just spent a week doing that. David Rowlands is with me now. Morning, David.
Good morning.
Good morning. Looking bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, considering the week that you've had.
Yeah, it's a lovely warm studio as well, so thank you for that.
You're appreciating this now. Now, it's one thing to be curious about what it's like, sort of living rough, but another completely to actually go out on the streets and do it yourself. Why did you?
Most definitely. So the reason, primarily, what I wanted to do was really raise awareness of the homeless community in Leicester. Probably understand the health needs which I felt weren't necessarily being met. And for the best way to do that was actually to sleep on the streets for 7 days and 7 nights, visit some organisations during that time as well, and really get to understand the unmet health needs.
I mean, a lot of people will do a sleep out for a night, say, for charity or to raise awareness. Were you worried at any point that you might be considered to be playing at being homeless? Is that something you went through your mind?
Yes, I think I was very aware of that, and I certainly planned to visit lots of different organisations through the week. One was kind of Inclusion Healthcare, providing fantastic service. Others, we've got drop-in centres like the Bridge Project and Dawn Centre. But I really wanted to meet and understand the community. There was branding of homeless for a week, and I was very honest with the community about what I was actually trying to achieve. And I think they really opened up to me, and I can probably share some of those experiences with you this morning.
I'd love to hear about some of those, because it was a very honest experience, I think. You've heard and saw some pretty tricky stuff, which we'll come to in just a moment. You referred to the branding there. You wore bright yellow T-shirt and a sort of hoodie that identified you as who you were. But how soon did you start getting a sense of I suppose the sheer raw physicality of having to sleep on the streets?
No, definitely. The first night was certainly challenging, and what sets in really quickly is the loneliness of it. And you have people walking past you on the streets of Leicester completely ignoring you, and you don't know, straight away you feel like you're not a valued member of society. And what I would say to people, the best probably 3 things you can give a homeless person is a bottle of water. Often people are dehydrated. They can wash themselves with it. It doesn't go cold. I would give them a newspaper, because I think boredom sometimes sets in, really. But the most important thing is really giving people the time of the day, so that acknowledgement is really, really critical. So like, good morning, how are you? We all like to be asked, how are we feeling,
So that's a really important social aspect. In terms of the practicals, where did you sleep?
Yeah, so there was, I slept sometimes behind the town hall. One night I went to a car park in the city centre, which unfortunately I was thrown out of kind of really early in the morning. I can understand it to a certain extent. There is some services providing accommodation for homeless people at night, but I didn't actually want to engage with that, because I felt that might be taking away from actual homeless people themselves. So I really wanted to sleep on the streets, which, that does bring some challenges. And there was one individual I got speaking to who was kind of a 45-year-old male, lived on the streets for over 2 years, and this week he was actually urinated on while he was asleep in a doorway in Leicester, which shocked me. I met a female who was actually someone offered her to sleep in the back of a van, and she ended up in Bristol going down the M1. So there's some really, really shocking stories, and they're very complex.
Well, did you then feel safe trying to bed down behind a car park wall or at the back of the town hall?
There's certainly dangers to it, and what I did understand was the community. There is actually a really close-knit community. The homeless people know each other, and I felt, for that week, part of that community, and I did feel safe to a certain extent. But there was challenges around that, and if we look at the drugs and alcohol issues, if we look at mental health, HIV, and kind of the general health and well-being of individuals, there's some major issues, but there's some fantastic organisations doing some fantastic work.
I think that, though, is often the barrier for people walking by to want to engage with people, because if you see someone who's drunk, if you see someone who's clearly off their head on drugs, it's a very brave, or I don't know what the word is. I don't know if I'd want to go up to someone and say, "Are you all right?" when they're in that state. Part of me goes, "Ugh, I don't want to see that on my street." streets. Can you understand that?
I completely get it, but I do also understand why people turn to drugs and alcohol so quickly while living on the streets. It's a way for them just to get out, or it's a release. There is safe places like the Anchor Centre where people can actually, homeless community can go there in the day and actually drink in a safe environment. And while there's challenges with that, I don't think we can actually, as a society, just hide away from that. We don't want to necessarily confront these homeless people who are drunk, but we shouldn't hide from it, and we can't put everyone in the same category. There's many homeless people not on drugs, not on alcohol. Homelessness is a way of life for them.
You also referred in your on Twitter particularly about a conversation you'd had with someone who's homeless who'd been sworn at by passers-by and had been treated like a dog. I mean, was that something you were aware of, you saw, you felt?
Yeah, I saw it with my own eyes, and it's a breakfast morning show, so I can't really comment on what was said. But it's stigmatising a population, it's discrimination, and it's just not fair on people.
So what happened there?
Yeah, so it was a person using bad language, really discriminating against them because they were homeless. And to me, that's not acceptable. These are real people. They have real stories. They have real lives and experiences.
So what are you going to do with all of this? You've spent this week, you've assumed a vast amount of knowledge, lots of conversations, and I can see you're so passionate about it. You just want to do something about it. So what can you do with what you've learned?
Well, first of all, I'm going to recover from the week. It's been really, really interestingly. Secondly, there's a short video which is going to be released later this week. So if anybody wants to Google homeless for a week, we're also still fundraising, which people can donate online, and that's around service development. But moving forward, I want to kind of look at service developments for the homeless community. So one would be kind of mapping different services. So there's many services out there, but what I'm quite aware of, the homeless community aren't aware of those services.
Bringing it together.
It is, and it's, there's overlaps of different providers. I also think, maybe a mapping document, a pocket guide of some description might be really helpful for the community to get involved in.
So something quite simple. What's your line of business, by the way?
Yeah, so primarily I work in HIV and hepatitis C, and that's raising awareness for patients living with those conditions. So, we have a high population of homeless people living with hepatitis C in Leicester, and one thing I'm maybe looking at doing is maybe setting up a testing clinic and a treatment clinic for them within kind of an environment they're used to going for.
What will stay with you the most, sort of aside from all thinking about the services and all that sort of thing, from the people that you met and the sights that you saw during that week on the streets, what is the image that will stay with you?
I think the image is around loneliness, and I think it's around well-being, and I think it's about community. And, I made a point of giving somebody a newspaper, and it's actually, very quickly you can become lost within the society, and it's important that we keep on the agenda homeless community. The homeless community matters, they need a voice, and moving forward, I think there's certainly a lot of work around homeless people to support them moving forward.
Okay, David, thank you, and you're sort of going to try and catch up on a bit of sleep now, because that was an issue, wasn't it? Sort of not easy to sleep like that. Thank you for coming in.
No, thank you for your time.